This is Ray Charles Jr., and you're listening to Icon Fetch.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
Welcome to the show. I am Tony Peters. Now, Rhonda Ross has some pretty good genes, you might say. She's the only daughter of legendary singer Diana Ross and Motown founder Berry Gordy Jr. But Rhonda has always walked to her own beat as well, making a name for herself first in acting, garnering a Daytime Emmy nomination for her role on the NBC soap opera Another World, and being named one of the 10 most fascinating television stars by People magazine. But she eventually found herself back to music, and you could describe Rhonda's music as rooted in jazz with elements of funk, soul, and even a little rock mixed in. She's just put out a brand new CD called In Case You Didn't Know. And she's opening for her mom, Diana, on the current tour. And to talk about it, we welcome in Rhonda Ross. Rhonda, good to talk to you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. I'm so happy to talk to you.
It's great to talk to you. Now, I understand that you put out a disc several years ago that was a live album, but this new one, is this your first studio album that you've put out?
It is. I did have the live album many years ago, well, about 16, 17. And I'm also very proud of that. That was music I was doing with my husband, and it was more steeped in traditional jazz. And then about 3 years ago, I put out a couple singles, and those were studio recordings. But this is my first full studio album. Yes, it is.
That's got to be once you get that one under your belt that, this is a studio album, you've, written the songs yourself, you produced it, that's got to be a big accomplishment, I would think.
I feel extremely proud of this. I'm proud of the music. I feel that it really represents who I am and where I am now in my life and my artistic development. But also, like you said, I did all of it myself, self-produced, self-financed. I'm sitting in the studios with the engineers and the musicians, and just every part of it, which pictures were chosen, everything was all me, and it felt really good to have that kind of control and autonomy.
Absolutely.
We independent artists get to do that in this day and age of the information age,
Exactly. And it's interesting. You talked about, your earlier live album that was steeped in more traditional jazz. I mean, you've done several different kind of styles with your music. Did you kind of have a mindset going into this record of how you wanted to do things differently?
Well, I hope that I always explore new forms of music. That is really important to me, to not get stuck. As an artist, I want to explore all of it, and I think it's all there for all of us. We have ownership of all of these genres. We as human beings, right? And so I think that I hope that I always tap into that. But in this particular record, what I really wanted to do was document where I am and who I am. So most of these songs, the way I've recorded them is the way that I have been recently performing them. And so I really wanted to document that, to show this is who I am. And as you mentioned, the genres even within the CD change. Some are more traditional jazz, some are rock, or I have a rock ballad on there, Evermore.
My love is yours, and it is forevermore.
And so they're showing different sides of who I am at the same time.
Absolutely. Now, if we talk about the opening track, which is also the title song, In Case You Didn't Know.
That's me dancing, putting on a show. In case you didn't know.
I have to say, I bet that was kind of fun to write, because you're writing lyrics like, that's me dancing, putting on a show, and you're likening yourself to all these different things. Was that kind of almost like a statement of purpose, a good way to sort of open the album?
Well, it's funny. A lot of people are asking that. I wrote that song, a year or so ago, and that song came to me as a lot of artists feel this way, as if another energy or another spirit was dictating it to me, and that spirit was the spirit that the magic of Mother Earth, right? The magic that allows flowers to bloom. Like, we don't understand what that is. What makes a seed turn into a tree?
Right.
Like, what is that?
Right.
And so this energy kind of spoke, and it was saying, I am here, and I am creating magic around you daily and moment by moment, and you might be taking me for granted, but I am the thing that everything needs to survive. So that's really what the song is about. Now, as I put the record together, I thought, hey, that might be a good title, because there's also this sense of, I'm the best kept secret of the Ross family, right?
Right. Sure.
There was this sort of tongue-in-cheek, in case
Right.
you didn't know, Rhonda Ross.
Right.
But the song is not written
Okay.
about me. It's,
All right.
it's really written about the magic of Mother Earth.
Okay, interesting. All right. Summer Day. Now, you talked about releasing singles over the last few years. Summer Day is one of the ones that kind of dates back a little while, right?
Like the first summer day in the park. Like the first summer day in the park.
That's correct.
And that one you kind of relate like a relationship to like the first day of summer. How did that kind of come about?
Well, almost all of my songs, Tony, you'll find have a meaning that is usually tied to how do we as human beings on this planet, how do we navigate what is going on around us? How do we navigate it emotionally and spiritually and all of that? And so this song was supposed to be one of my lighter songs. I was watching my kid play in the park, and I thought, gosh, I'd love to write an easy, light song about the first day of summer, and I started to put it together. But by the time I got to the bridge, that sort of deeper meaning started to come in. And what the bridge says is, a day like today helps me to know that even with our setbacks, our love can grow. A day like today helps me to feel that even though it's faded, our love is still real.
Yeah.
And what I realized the song was really about, as I got through to the end of it, was holding on to hope, even in the midst of a winter. So knowing that summer's coming, that first day of summer is going to come, but even when you're in the darkness of winter.
Right.
And holding on to promise, even when no one else can see it, right? But you know it inside. So that ended up coming out in the song. I didn't even know that that's what the song was about.
Isn't that neat? I mean, that's a lot of times you don't know where you're going to be taken when a song you head down a path and then it takes you a completely different direction, kind of thing.
Many times for me, I can say that is exactly what happens. Something will spur a song. It could be a melody. It could be a lyric line. Something will spur it, and as I move in it and through it, I realized what really needed to come out and what I really needed to say and what I really needed to hear for myself. Most of my songs are speaking to me and cooling me out and helping me. The song Nobody's Business.
Nobody's business. Nobody's business.
Which is another one of the songs that came out as a single a few years ago. One day I was having, throwing my own little pity party, and I heard a voice, because I hear voices clearly, I heard a voice say, ain't nobody's job to make you happy, Rhonda Ross.
Right.
Yeah, figure this out. If you want to be happy and content and at peace, you figure it out, because it is nobody else's job to do that for you.
And that's universal. I mean, everybody can relate to that, I mean, really.
Yes. So that's what. So that's where that song comes from. Most of my songs are for me. I need to hear them. I need to be reminded.
Well, another one along the same lines is Breathe, where you talk about we're so busy with our life that we don't realize that we're gasping for air.
Running here, running there. Food and shoes and clothes for your
yes. And that's the case for so many of us. And that particular song is really to parents because it's talking about, keeping everything rolling and moving for your kids, which is a more than full-time job. And on top of that, we have full-time jobs.
Right. Yep.
So,
absolutely.
So it's just a reminder to take that moment to reconnect, whether that be through meditation or prayer or writing or something artistic or however we all do it. But take that moment to breathe and reconnect to the source that is fueling all of this. I mean, most of my songs have to do with that, reconnecting to our source for fuel, so we're not running on empty.
Right, exactly. Now, Drumbeat of Life.
She brings in the day, and darkens the night, the drumbeat of life.
This is one that dates way back. You actually tackled that on your live album years ago.
I did. But what's really interesting about Drumbeat of Life, now Drumbeat of Life, for those who don't know, it's two conversations happening at once. It's people here on the earth looking around and seeing the difficulty, the turmoil, the inequities, the unfairness, all of that, and complaining and saying, this is not right. Rightfully complaining. This is not right. This is not right. This is not right. And the second part of the conversation is talking about, again, the Spirit of God that is righteous and truthful and fair and peaceful, and saying, despite the fact that you are experiencing this unfairness here on the planet, there is an energy that is correct and loving you, and it is the energy, it is the drumbeat of life, it is the energy that allows, that tells the sun when to rise and set, and that keeps the earth rotating in its orbit. It is correct, and you have to know both things. Like you can know that this is hard down here, but also know that there is something that is really right that's also happening simultaneously.
Right.
So that's what that song is about. And what I find with that song is, yes, I wrote it many years ago, and it is so still relevant because we see what's happening right now. We have such turmoil, right now in this country, definitely, and around the world. And so it is a relevant song.
Right. Well, you know what? That just shows timeless qualities. I mean, look at Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On" that he did in 1971 or whatever, and it's like that could be written right now. I mean, all those things are,
You mentioned that. It's really funny you mentioned that because when I perform Drumbeat of Life live, I add in "What's Going On."
Oh, that's great. See, look at that,
of course,
right?
I didn't put it on the record,
right.
Licensing and all
right,
of that.
Sure,
but when
right.
I do it on stage, that's exactly what
that's
I
awesome.
add.
That's awesome.
And a little bit of inner city blues, make them want to holler,
right.
How they do my life.
Yep.
And I throw that in because they are songs speaking to the same thing. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. Now, I tell you what, my favorite song we haven't talked about yet, I really like "All I Want."
Wonder if you know that, baby, all night, all day, is to be with you.
And I know that, at least on the surface, that doesn't quite sound like sort of the deeper meaning that some of your other songs have. But it also seems to have like a classic soul feel to it as well.
It does, and well noticed. I co-wrote that with a wonderful writer out of Nashville named Shannon Sanders, and as we were writing it, we were looking for that classic sound and all of that stuff. But we were also noticing that yes, it doesn't have the deeper meaning, and that's okay. That's okay.
Right. You got to have fun too, right?
It's one of my favorite songs too,
Right.
and audiences love it. And I think it's great to have something kind of, a little more fun. I mean, it's still about, you're who I want despite anything. So that's always nice.
Right. Sure.
It's not your title. It's not, it's you.
Right.
So that's always lovely. But yes, I wrote that with Shannon Sanders, and Shannon also wrote "Run On" with me, which does have, of course, a stronger lyric. But I'm very proud of both of those songs, and he was a joy to work with.
Right. Fantastic. Now, I have to tell you, most of the songs on the record have kind of an uplifting, that even in the face of what's going on, you can still kind of make it. It's very positive. How do you stay so positive with all the stuff that's going on?
I agree that that the songs do tend to uplift. What I try to do, I try to walk through this world with my eyes open. I see everything, but then I know that ultimately it is my job to pull myself and my emotions and my psychology out of the turmoil that is going around. And I believe that is the only way that we, as both individuals and as a community, can pull ourselves out of the turmoil. You can't find the answers when you're bogged down in the questions, right? You can't find the peace when you're bogged down in the turmoil. You have to somehow find a way to see the turmoil, because you got to see it, you got to recognize it, you got to speak to it, and then somehow transcend it or transform it to pull out of it. And so I believe that in a lot of ways that's what gospel does, right?
Sure.
That's what slave songs did. That's what all of that is. It's a way to, yes, I see it. I am not ignoring it. I am not closing my eyes to it. But now I'm going to transform it and take the power that I have in my hands and pull myself and my brothers and my sisters and all of the like-minded people who want what I want. We're going to all pull ourselves out of this,
Right.
And so that's really what my songs tend to end up saying,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Now, I also understand you're a mom. You have a son now, and I imagine that gives you a totally different perspective on things, and you can talk about looking at the world and all that. And then you also got to look at, because I'm a parent as well, to look at, okay, what's life going to be like for my kids as well?
Yeah. All of that. I mean, my son's going to be 7 in a week, and these past 7 years, and even my pregnancy, I mean, it's just it changes your whole world,
yep.
Right? When you become a parent, it just does. And yes, you realize that the world that you are building and leaving behind is not for you anymore. It's
right.
for them.
Yeah.
And it does matter. And also, the other thing that matters is what you give them, what tools you give them to be able to navigate whatever world they find themselves in, because
Absolutely.
The truth is we don't know.
Yep.
So what tools are they being given? The other day I was with my son, and we were in a little bed and breakfast, and he ran up to the room, and I followed him up, and he was kind of huddled under the bed. And I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, you said this and you said that, and it hurt my feelings, And I said, "Ain't nobody's job to make it." No.
Mom's quoting lyrics.
Yeah, what kind of mother are you, Rhonda Ross?
Right.
No, but truthfully, I do want him to know, he doesn't have to take in everything that is said to him or about him,
right.
And he can choose how he's going to feel in the moment and how he's going to feel about himself, right, his own self-confidence and self-esteem. And it's not everybody else's job to take around to make sure that it's a little deep for a 7-year-old.
Right. No, that's all right. But I hear you. Definitely.
I take that seriously. The tools that I give him, his self-esteem and his ability to navigate, because I don't know what world he's going to be handed.
Right.
And I can only control that so much.
Right. Oh yeah, and totally.
So as a parent, yes, you care about the environment, but you also care about giving your child the tools, the ability to think through it, the ability to know who he is despite, and the ability to love who he is despite, and the ability to keep his equilibrium despite,
right.
And all of that. So yeah, it's a big job.
It is a big job. Well, and it's interesting. I also saw where, you talk about, giving your kids tools, and we all want to give them tools. I found it fascinating that you have taught your son not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 languages. How cool is that?
Thank you so much. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that. I speak French, and I learned it in school. No one in my family speaks it. I learned it. And it was such a blessing to my life. And I learned two things. I learned, one, that my mother, who does not speak French or any other language, was able to give me, her child, that tool. And she didn't do it directly, but she put me in the environment where I could learn it.
Right.
And I realized I could give my son things that I don't possess. And that was huge for me. He doesn't just have to have what I have. He can have more than what I have. And so that was number one. And number two, learning French and traveling to French-speaking countries and being able to speak their language and not demand it was so helpful to my life. So I wanted to give him that. First I gave him French, and then I started to give him, through putting him in the environment, these other languages, Spanish, of course English, and Chinese, Mandarin Chinese.
Yeah, and Chinese is a big deal because you just, as the world is ever changing, you know, that I think that's an excellent tool to have for the future, certainly. So
Agreed.
Well, you know, I have to ask, you know, you were the daughter of Diana Ross, so I imagine you had lots of music around the house, kind of thing. But I'm wondering, like, you know, a lot of times when, you know, parents is famous, their kids, they try to shelter them from the entertainment business because they realize it can be really rough. It can be a really rough life. You know, was your mom supportive? Did your mom kind of shelter you from all that? You know, how about that?
She's, first of all, my mother has been an incredible mother, totally separate from her career and her celebrity and all of that, an incredibly wise, an incredibly present mother. And she never discouraged or encouraged us to go in any direction, with the exception of saying, follow your bliss, do for as a career what you would do for free. Build a life that you can love, that you don't feel that you have to take a vacation from. Right? That was always what was told to us. So we were not in any way influenced to go get a job because that is what made the money and then do our passion on the side. She always said, find a way to let your passion fuel your life. And she always made us feel, as generous as she was, that we had to take care of our own lives. We had to finance our own lives. We were not going to live on a trust fund. But at the same time, and so we don't have that kind of entitled mentality, but at the same time, you know, to build this life and make our money from something that we loved. So each of the five of us have done that in different ways. I have always been a performing artist, as you mentioned at the beginning, a singer and an actress and all of that. And she's always been incredibly supportive of that. So she never sheltered me or you know, discouraged it or encouraged it. She just supported it. That's
fantastic. Now I'm looking on your website, therhondaross.com is your website. Yes. I'm looking at some upcoming appearances and dates, and I noticed one in particular that's fascinating. August 10th, you have a speaking engagement at the Motown Museum. What are you going to be doing there?
Well, Motown Museum has a camp. It's actually part of the camp that they do each summer with artist entrepreneurs, young, teenage age, and they have had. It's been in existence. This is going to be the third year, and I've been the keynote speaker each year.
Oh wow!
And I just speak with the students about what this business is, what it is to be a practicing and working artist, and some of the things that I've learned both from my family history and also just from my personal experience. And it's always so great to speak to young people about you know, to give one's perspective, because in some ways my perspective is different, and I'm always happy to do that. But I do actually a lot of speaking engagements, and my speaking tends to be just like the singing, right? Just like the songs. I write about the same kinds of things that I speak about, and which is sort of self-dependence emotionally and psychologically, and uplift and self-love and love of others and acceptance and all of those things, connection with source. So I talk about all of those things when I'm asked to speak. And sometimes I'm asked to speak specifically about the history of Motown and American history and where that fits in together, and that's wonderful too, because all of that works. It all is the same conversation to me.
Sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm always thrilled, and I'm always thrilled to talk education and the development of young minds is so important to me. As we were just talking about with my son and the languages, we're actually homeschooling him. This is going to be the second year of homeschooling him. So I'm a little bit obsessed with this whole concept of helping a young mind develop around some of the issues that I think are really important.
Absolutely. No, 100%. I'm a parent as well, and we've done a lot of different kind of angles on education and just trying to find the right fit for your kids kind of thing.
Right.
So,
that's right.
Yep.
It's all about fit. It's
Absolutely.
all about fit.
Absolutely. So, well, I have to ask, so in case you didn't know, is the new disc, now you're on the road with your mom. Now, are you going to be able to do some shows on your own where you can, play more of the new album kind of thing? Or
I do. Yeah, I do. My shows with my mother are very new. We have never done them before this year. We started a couple weeks in February, a couple weeks in April, and now this 6-week summer tour, which we're almost at the end. By the time I see you, that'll be the last show.
Right. Okay.
So this is all very new. My whole career has been shows on my own, not for as big of an audience, but shows on my own, and where I do 90 minutes of my stuff. I mean, I'll throw in a few covers here and there, but it's 90 minutes of my stuff. And for my mother's show, what we're doing is I do 20 minutes up front, and even then, it's 5 or 6 of my originals in there. And then I throw in a couple covers again, but
nice.
But it's 5 or 6 of my originals.
Nice.
And I really do focus on sharing my originals because I feel like I'm a writer first. I love performing, I love singing, but it's the writing that that really shows who I am, I believe.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, Rhonda, it's been a pleasure. The new disc is, in case you didn't know, from Rhonda Ross, and she will be opening up for her mom when they come to the Rose on Wednesday night. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we're looking forward to the show.
And to you, Tony. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head over to iconfetch.com. There, you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who is Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send what you've got to Tony Peters. Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio 45429. Or email Tony at host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.